Welcome to OTW Spotlight. I'm TJ Halverson, and today we're joined by Alyssa Huffman, CEO and founder of ALLUMIN8, a company focused on creating an entirely new category of implants called therapeutic hardware. And it doesn't just provide structural support, but is actually designed to diagnose, treat, and heal directly through the device. Alyssa, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on yesterday's announcement. That's huge.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming. Man, the team, they really pulled through. I mean, I couldn't be more proud to be part of this team.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. A lot of hard work, a lot of long hours. But for those who don't know ALLUMIN8, can you give us a little bit of a background, explain to the surgeons or the folks from the industry on the podcast here, how does this technology change the game for spine surgeons?
So I think it really starts with the initial story. I sketched this out in the OR in 2009, and after seeing several revisions in the spine, and as a distributor, I had represented basically every implant from the neck down, like a version of an implant from the neck down to treat, whether it be fracture, total joint reconstruction, spine fusion, sports medicine, biologics, computer navigation, so on and so forth. But what I saw was a much higher revision rate in the spine fusion patients. And then, so I sketched this out in 2009 after I saw my cousin. She was an incomplete quadriplegic, and she had issues with the screws loosening from her fusion. And she was 21 years old, right? And so I'm like, that's interesting. So there's a biological, because she had great bone mineral density at 21 before the injury. She was a swimmer for college. So she was upper echelon of fitness, and a healthy person. So for her bone mineral density to fatigue that quickly after spine fusion and spinal cord injury, that told me there's something here that fusion's not, that hardware isn't addressing. And then I saw the same thing happen with my uncle, who's diabetic, and he had far too much infuse. And so he had lots of scarring. He went septic a few times. There were another biological response that I saw over and over and over in the OR. So I sketched out an ideas of a concept specifically for the loosening, but it turns out that loosening also propagates infection. So if we are looking from the standpoint of, we need to fix the loosening issue, but we also need to have an opportunity where surgeons can address the sepsis, the bone mineral density, the up to 300 different disease states that occur in bone. So how do we treat biomechanically, but also therapeutically? And over the years, we've gotten closer and closer to understanding what that goal looks like and how to achieve that goal. So the pedicle that was cleared on Monday is just the first step of the overarching goal.
Got it. Got it. So help us understand what makes that screw fundamentally different, right? There's been multiple breakthroughs in design and manufacturing that had to happen in order to make this possible. But
Yeah.
give us some more detail on that.
So that's a really important question here, because not 3D printing helps with the operational function, right? And the back order issues and cost. But when it comes to design, that is what is the most hard to achieve. The design to withstand in a 5.5 millimeter pedicle screw, right? 5.5 is exceptionally hard to 3D print, and nobody has ever been able to do that in history. We are the very first that have been able to withstand the fatigue resistance of all of the ASTM standards that are required for the FDA. We also went further because these were going to be implanted in my uncle. He was planning to be the first patient. We went further and we did additional testing. We had 1798, which isn't typically, which wasn't part of the protocol with the FDA. So we did about 4 times more of the additional testing than the other. There's one other pedicle screw system that's cleared with larger sizes than 5.5. But 5.5 is just such a challenging metric to attain that we wanted to have a much higher likelihood that this is going to be viable for my uncle. And so we part of the screw, the design features are to be porous and to have topography throughout the shaft of the screw, because the best quality bone is actually in the pedicle region. So having holes distally is only really for cement delivery. And actually, cement delivery in that area is probably not the greatest idea anyhow, because it's almost like mashed potatoes in that area. So you want to capture the best quality of bone, and that's going to be in the pedicle. Well, a quadruple or a triple lead thread actually just turns that into mashed potatoes. And so you want to have a nice rhythmic pattern of your screw thread, so you're not destroying that pedicle region with the cortical-esque, the stronger bone, the better bone mineral density, to act as the stabilization for initial fusion. For that first 8 weeks, that's a very dangerous time zone to mess up the best quality of bone. And so we actually 3D printed topography on the proximal area of the screw threads to give additional purchase in the pedicle. So as you screw in the screw, it purchases, it gives additional purchase in the proximal area. And then you have the opportunity, our next clearance is going to be, we're submitting to the FDA for the bone marrow draw. Drawing bone marrow into the hardware gives you several different opportunities. For those that believe in regenerative therapy, you could spin it down. You can use the fibrin portion of the glue, the fibrin portion of the bone marrow. You can use that to deliver small molecules. And again, these will be all off label. So let me be very, very clear about this. That this gives surgeons options that we're just talking about right now. We do not know what those indications look like. But in theory, you can take that bone marrow, send it to the lab. Lab can use AI to diagnose what is going to be the best cocktail combination to treat the disease states that are causing the failure. Send that pharmacy. Pharmacy creates that compound. At the end of the case, you can mix it with the bone marrow and inject it. If you put it in the fibrin portion of the bone marrow, now you can slowly elute those small molecules over the course of 4 to 5 days. And so we're looking at areas that we can actually treat the disease states that cause the failures. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, that's fascinating. That is next level.
And that's where we should.
Yeah, of course. That's where the future is.
Yeah.
So we're talking theoretically, from a clinical standpoint, when should a surgeon reach for this integrate system and future iterations instead of traditional screws?
And this is where I ask them, when shouldn't you? And the marketing campaign is, why not? If we're not changing anything about surgical technique, if we're not changing anything about pricing, if we're simply providing options that didn't exist prior, and why wouldn't you?
And it's better for the patient.
I'm, like, I have the FDA to watch over me about being cautiously optimistic of that's what it's going to do. We are designing protocols to reduce the reoperation rate, and our goal is to reduce it 25%. And most likely that's not going to be from one piece of hardware. It's going to be from a protocol that is developed for patient-specific protocols. And that might be nutritional optimization. It might be therapeutic delivery. It might be the best hardware that's 3D printed and allows topography. And using AI.
Absolutely. I think that's where we're already starting to see some of the maybe the easier technologies or easier workflows that you can integrate AI into a system so that you can find the repeatable patterns and then ultimately create custom protocols. I think that's where everything will be in the future. But right now it's finding where can we start and then continue to evolve from there. So let's talk a little bit about some of the market validation, some of your strategy moving forward. What's been the early feedback that you've received from some of these leading spine surgeons that have worked with you on this project?
So outside of our core team, what I keep getting fundamentally is I thought about this in the past and I wondered why people didn't do it. Well, I can give you a very good reason for it. It is exceptionally hard to do and to meet those standards. And for those out there that are trying to push the FDA away from these standards that have been put into place, I highly discourage it because I have seen extraordinary failures with other designs. And so, and with even our historical designs, I've seen catastrophic failures. One that, and one engineer said that he was 95% confident that it would pass testing, and it only made it through 5% of the way. So
Wow.
we're talking highly tenured, 30-year veteran engineers. So everybody thinks that just because bone can grab onto it, that it's not going to have failures. No, that is not the case. There is a very severe nuance that needs to be understood with additive manufacturing. Very, very different, fundamentally different design than subtractive manufacturing. And all the other pedicle screws are subtractively manufactured. So until you understand those nuances, stay far, far away from additive manufacturing, particularly for small implants. But our key opinion leader team, Koi Than over at Duke, Zach Ray, Chief of Neurosurgery at WashU, electrophysiologist over at UCSF, Meyer Jayarao over at Cox Health, and we have Dr. David Bennett for a pediatric perspective. We're also potentially collaborating with some of the bigger systems to start doing some research with the options of therapeutics delivered through the devices. We will be in US, then India, and we already have distribution as well as key opinion leaders set up in Australia, Taiwan, Japan, and potentially Dubai on top of it.
Wow,
So, yeah.
that's great. So how do you plan to compete? The pedicle screw market is dominated, and there's many players. Obviously, Illuminate this is a very unique, differentiated product. But how do you expect to compete in the market, grow commercially, and more so, how are you educating surgeons on how to evaluate the differences?
So 5% of the market are early adopters. And those are the people that see something, they see the value in it innately right from the beginning, and they're willing to test it with the risk of knowing, hey, this is new, and they'll be willing to translate this is new to their patients and allow the patients to make decisions. Because ultimately, we want to be very transparent and we want to have partnerships with physicians that are willing to give us their data. And the data is the most fundamentally important part of this, and transparency of the data. So we're not here to just make money. We are here to fundamentally reduce the reoperation rate in spine. And the only way to do that is with data transparency.
hmm hmm Makes a lot of sense. So we've already talked about this exciting clearance, right? That was just on Monday for the integrate system. Now we're talking about the next, right? Circulate. Can you walk us through that product, that strategy, and what may be the timeline for bringing that to market?
So we did our pre-sub early on. So we've already been in communication with the FDA on this device. That is the adapter that screws on to the head and the head of the screw, and it draws bone marrow into and through the device. what we plan to do is submit in 2026 for that Circulate system, the bone marrow draw and delivery system. And then hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have this commercialized and ready to go. It's not designed to be a big money maker. It's designed to reduce the reoperation rate. And so I fundamentally want people to start thinking of bone marrow as a source in the vertebrae, not just the iliac crest or the proximal humerus, the proximal tibia, or proximal. Yeah, I want people to understand that the vertebral bone has the highest number, and the cranium have the highest number of cells, of stem cells available in the body. And they're actually doing a lot of research. And in fact, there's actually a new stem cell that has been discovered in the spine. And they are doing research on understanding, is this the stem cell that it targets cancers? Is that why stem cells or cancer travels to the spine so quickly, based off of this brand new stem cell? There is so much we know about cellular activity. It's not just VEGF and IGF and BMP2 and BMP4. It is it is a cascade that it's the value of the cells are determinant upon the viability of the actual patient. And so regenerative therapy is never going to be a one formula. It's going to be really based off of the healing patterns of the patient. Some patients do not need to have regenerative therapy, and they shouldn't have, because there's also an inflammatory response and there's variances between leukocyte rich and leukocyte poor and so on. So really, there's some phenomenal researchers and leaders within this, and I genuinely hope that the industry will slowly and gradually start adopting this mindset and then maybe implementing in their practice. When you're talking about throwing the kitchen sink at a spine revision, you take the cage, and it's typically a 3D printed titanium porous cage. You take bone and bone marrow from the iliac crest, crunch it up, and then pack it in the cage. That's fundamentally what we're trying to achieve within the screw. As you screw the screw in, it collects bone within the pores and the topography, the Gaussian topography. The Gaussian topography of the screw is based off the average vertebral bone pattern. That in and of itself, the Gaussian topography shows up to 4 times better, stronger, faster bone just from the Gaussian topography. And this is an independent study that no part of. This is a study that I found while we were doing research. And I'm happy to share that information for anybody that wants to see it.
Yeah, interesting. So we've established this concept of it's truly a therapeutic hardware, right? Do you think that this could go where else could we apply the same technology? This is a platform. Do you see where else we could go within orthopedics even?
Absolutely. And I really want to be part of this. And not from a money standpoint. I want to be a part of truly reducing the revision rates in certain areas of the bone. And so that looks like areas where there's low vascular supply. It doesn't have to be poor bone mineral density. It can be, it's just strictly don't get delivered there very easily. It can look like dental implants. It could look like hip core decompression, revision stem, or primary stems, total knee. And it could look like trauma nails, foot and ankle for reconstruction. The future is limitless for this mindset. And I really hope that the industry takes this information and starts, it sparks and ignites curiosity, and it fully evolves how we design implants, not just for mechanical stability, but for biomechanical activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, you're not just building a product. It really is a new category in my mind. So, what does success look like next year? Right? You've had a great few years, right? You won the OTW Spine Technology Award in 2024, 2025. You obtained FDA approval on Monday, which is huge. What does 2026 have for ALLUMIN8?
You just gave me chills because I'm like, as you're talking about the last year, I mean, we won the Arch Grants Award from through the city of St. Louis. We won the WashU Global Impact Award. We won several pitch competitions, you know, and when you're struggling like paycheck to paycheck, month by month, you know, you're just keeping your head down, putting one step forward. Then you go, okay, we achieved it. Now what's next? Now it's following through on the plan. We've built this. We know exactly how many surgeons we need month by month and what type of surgeons from what type of institutions. We know how many screws we're going to sell month by month. And that's the goal here, is to reduce the reoperation rate. So we want to work with surgeons that are willing to help give us the data, because that's the only way we can get better is shifts with the surgeons, the institutions, and the patients, and recognize what next year looks like is looking retrospectively through institutions maybe like HSS's database and saying, we actually are reducing the revision rate. How can we do better? How can we get to that 25%? And I'm not saying we will reach that 25%, but if we have 25% as the goal and we get to 10% reduction in revision, that's massive for the world. And that's what I hope, that's my goal for next year to look like, is demonstrating that we are reducing the revision rate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I'll be cheering you on as we keep moving forward. So let's talk about something that's coming up here in just a couple of weeks here. We have NASS, North American Spine Society, that wonderful conference every year. You guys are going to be there. If any surgeons are going to be in Denver, they can come check you guys out. But let's talk about some of the other things that you'll be doing while at NASS. How could people learn more about you? Are you guys going to have a booth?
We will. I was hesitant to get a booth because we didn't have clearance. Then, you know, it's silly to. I mean, I didn't want to show up another year with a booth. And last year we got the booth because we won the award, the OTW award. But this year we will have a booth. But I'm really excited about the NASS Innovation Network. And I stress the work part of the network. Like, I'm on the committee there, and Eric, the CEO of NASS, and Zogo Gawala, they saw something in me, and they allowed this random girl with a small company that doesn't have a product on the market to be part of the committee. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity, and I want to pay back what I've learned throughout this process and allow people to ask questions of me of how I would do it differently, or how they should do it, or helping them get connected with somebody that can help solve their problems. Because ultimately, without people, no dots are connected. And we struggled so many times by having the wrong people, not because they're the wrong people, but they didn't have that exact specialty that we needed. And that can waste a lot of time and a lot of money very quickly. And building out the wrong infrastructure, or designing or going through R&D with the wrong subset of people. And it can create a lot of chaos. And ultimately, I'm so proud of the team that we've built. I mean, Matt Schomper came in and saved the day. I mean, we were going to pivot. We really were. The Hail Mary was adding topography to the screw threads. That was the Hail Mary. We tested 6 different designs, and that was the only one that passed. And so, and then we were pivoting. And our patent attorney, Cliff Schlecht, I mean, he's taken us through so much, all of our international patents. Todd Wallenstein, Dr. Lisa Ferreira, Mark Duvall, Mark Melkerson. These are people on the team that got us here. This is not me. This is not an Alyssa show. They did this. I came in and I just listened, and I let them tell me, because they've done this far longer than me.
Hmm. Yeah. It's a team effort, right? So if there's one thing that you want a spine surgeon to remember about this conversation and the future of Illuminate, what would it be?
That the world is going to change. We are evolving, and spine, if I have any purpose on this earth outside of being a mother, it's to make sure that people don't suffer like my loved ones did,
Hmm.
because we can do this. We are very smart people in this world. And the one thing that I am so upset about is that my uncle, my cousin, and my dad didn't get a chance to see this breech clearance. My uncle passed away about 5 months ago. My dad passed away 2 weeks ago. And so this means something to people, and we
Yeah.
forget that sometimes. We're so focused on one or two issues. We're so focused on bone mineral density and infection. There is a myriad of problems that contribute to the failures. And now if
Hmm.
we start looking at those failure mechanisms and treating those disease states, now we can actually solve problems. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars per product, and we look at biologics, and Dr. Sig Bervin actually presented data from UCSF that showed all of the biologics that are used, the pricing variances in there and that are used uh, at UCSF, and there was only 1 to 3% benefit of each one. And so it's like, I challenge this community. If you're going to spend 10 years of your life, blood, sweat, and tears, and to develop a product and raise hundreds of millions of dollars, let's work towards the cumulative goal of reducing reoperation rates by 25%, because it can be done. We've seen it done with a handful of products. And if we cumulatively make that effort together, we will change the world together.
You need passion in order to achieve anything difficult. And Alyssa, you have it in spades. There's no doubt about that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we sign off?
Yes, please find me at NAS. Check our LinkedIn page, find out where we are. We're going to be posting updates throughout, even at the nightly events. We'll let you know where we are. I'd love to see you. And I think that this is a really special interview, TJ, because Robin Young introduced the concept of Illuminate to the entire world a couple years ago. And so, what a way to close that chapter, reopen and open another chapter, than to have this interview today, with orthopedics this week. How cool is that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it is a huge announcement. It's a great story, and this is just one chapter. Let's keep it rolling. Thank you so much for spending some time with us at OTW. We're excited to get this out and into the world so that more people know about this incredible technology that just got approval, and there's more to come. So Alyssa Huffman from Illumin8, thanks for joining us on OTW Spotlight. If you want to get more information, you can visit ALLUMIN8, that is ALLUMIN number 8.com. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Alyssa.
Thank you. Bye, TJ.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of OTW Pod. For more insights and coverage on the latest in orthopedic innovation, visit ryortho.com. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast, and we'll see you next time.